Hi there. My name is Shelly, and I'm from Confident Nutrition. I'm presenting on mindful eating made practical as part of the SENC Mindfulness Week. So you might know me as the founder of the SENC, current co-leader with Dan Hart, but I'm also a business owner like yourself. So today I'm talking about that mindful eating. And we know that bringing in more mindfulness in general, but mindfulness around what we eat, can really help us become more efficient, more productive, less stressed, and also to enjoy our lives and our business better. This happens not only through the physical being, like in ourselves physically, but also by freeing up that mental energy so that we can use it more for our business and to show up in the best way possible with our clients in tasks that we're doing, just in our lives in general, because we don't usually have businesses for the sake of having businesses, right? We have businesses so that they can support the lives that we want, so that they can help us help other people. We have other goals for our business, not just business as the endpoint. So I have my private practice, as I mentioned, called Confident Nutrition. And in this private practice, I help women entrepreneurs to really get peace with their food and their health so that they can have more energy and do the things that they want to do, get more done in their business in a way that feels good for them. So not necessarily stuffing more things on the to-do list, but really aligning that with our goals and figuring out, what can we do? How do we do this more efficiently? How do we even have energy to tackle or to do this, right? And I've had thousands of hours of training and experience as a registered dietitian, as a certified intuitive eating counselor, as a nutrition mindset coach. And this really just means for you that I have the experience, I have the training, to know what to do in the situation and to know how to teach it and how to coach it, so that we can actually make progress, right? Forward progress together. And this also means that not just the knowledge side of things in theory, but I have that practical experience as a business owner and achieving these goals and having multiple projects. I know what it's like to be busy. I know what it's like to have things going on, and to be able to make suggestions in a way that makes sense, right? In a way that is practical for our lives every day, so that we're not saying that healthy eating or recommendations happen in a vacuum or in an quote, unquote, ideal situation where you're sitting on a beach somewhere and a gentle breeze is flowing by and you have the palm tree, all that. That's not practical for most people, right? So how do we make mindful eating practical in the lives that we're living? Because it starts right now. It doesn't start like, when you all get it together and then you can start it. No, let's just start right now, because mindfulness in our eating, mindfulness in our lives can actually help us get to where we'd like to go, right? Not get there first and then bring this in. So if you're ready to bring this in, if you're ready to start, or if you're ready to expand what you're already doing, this would be a good place for you to continue watching. Like, I have some 4 suggestions for you actually, things that you can do and try out right in the next week or so, and see what you think. What else comes up for you? How did you like it? Just some ways to really make these practical. And each of them are around that idea of bringing more mindfulness into our eating, into the food, into thinking about how we eat, so that we can make progress forward. It's not going to happen all at once, right? This is not something that the goal is like, hey, let's go, let's do this thing, and then check, we're done. That would be like saying, yep, I started a business, check, I'm done. No, you started a business and now there's more things to do to grow that business. There's more things to do to make that successful. There's more things to do, to learn and to grow as a person, right? And as a business owner. So there's, in our own lives, in our own selves, in any of the goals, there's usually steps, right? It's not just like boom, we teleport to the end. There's a journey to get there. So these 4 activities I'm going to explain to you today are more around how do we get to the next step in that. So it's not necessarily how do we teleport to the end, but how do we figure out, based on where you are now, choosing an activity that fits where you are now and where you'd like to be. Let's try that out and see if you can get to the next step, if you can reveal something that might be helpful for you moving forward, right? So that's the goal for today. I'm going to present the 4, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why it's helpful and what to think about during each of those. And then I'll share a little bit about how you can dive deeper, just because I know that this is a short presentation, and I like to help people to actually make it something that sticks, right? So the first thing is a general set of reflection questions. This would be good if you are just starting to think about mindfulness around food, or if you want to reassess your relationship with food, or you want to kind of like get a little bit of a refresher. So this is going to help you, kind of like think about food in a different way, or think about the way that you think about food, kind of like that meta, right? Think about the thinking, or think about the way that you approach it. The second one is going to be an activity. If you've ever tried mindful eating before, you will have some idea of what it is. You can put that aside. This activity is practical. So whether you have a lot of time to have a mindful meal and all that, or whether you have no time at all and you're eating at your desk while you work, or in the car as you drive somewhere while you're talking on the phone, you can still use this activity in a practical way. So this is useful for any time that you eat or you drink, whether or not you have a lot of time, whether or not you are sitting on that beach or you're living your life. This is going to be something for you. So it does not require that you've had mindfulness experience before. It does not require that you've tried it out before. And even if it didn't work before, you could still try this again. The third one is a check-in exercise. So these are some questions around checking in with your body about how your body feels about what you're eating. So if you want to know more about how does your food affect your body, this might be a good exercise for you to try. The goal there is to help you find some of those foods that are helping you feel satisfied and comfortable in your here and now body. So we'll talk more about that one. And then the fourth one is something that I call the one question to rule them all. If you've ever seen Lord of the Rings or read the books, you will get that reference. But it's basically like a one master question that can be used in multiple scenarios, and really useful for pretty much anybody at any point. So whether you are just starting out in mindfulness, whether you have tried it a little bit and you're learning more, or whether you're really an expert at this, I have shared this question with people in all those scenarios, and it's still helpful for them. And it's helpful for me. It continues to be helpful for me. The more that I learn, it's still helpful for me. So this is a question that I go to myself. This is a question that I encourage my patients, my clients, my colleagues, anybody. This question is kind of a nice touch point question. So we're going to go over that one as well. And I have some slides just so that you don't have to worry about like scribbling down as I'm talking. I know I'm a little bit of a fast talker, so you can pause it, you can write down the questions, or just screenshot the slide. If you are more of an auditory learner, that's great. You can ignore the slides. But for those of you who are more visual or want the backup of having something else besides me just, sharing it, I am going to share my screen so that you can see the questions also. So we'll do this here. So in, oops. All right. So in this slide, that you'll see the four here. Okay. So the first one is the general reflection. And why is reflection even important? Why would I start here? Our relationship with food is important, and mindfulness around our relationship with food is important because it impacts not just what we eat, right? But also our relationship with food is part of like, how do we feel about what we eat? How are we reacting emotionally and mentally to what we eat, to ourselves as what we eat? What values and judgments are we putting on ourselves? And that's going to affect other things, right? That's going to affect other situations. That's going to affect our progress. For example, if a food was causing stress, that stress can also cause more physical problems, but it's not just the physical part, it's the energy part. If we have a lot of stress going on, that sucks energy from, say, showing up in a client meeting or, creating some content or something like that. Like our creativity goes down under stress sometimes. So we can have these impacts in multiple ways, multiple areas of our lives or in our businesses. So it can be really important to consider this as part of how am I going to show up as the best the best business owner? How am I going to show up as the best entrepreneur if I'm not really addressing these things also? The mindset, not just around the business, but around my health and around my nutrition, right? And around what I eat. So if our relationship with food is not as helpful as it could be, then it may impact, or it may put a limit on how and our progress in other areas of our lives, right? Not just the physical. So here are some questions to think about as we're doing our reflection in this first scenario. First off, when I think about food, what do I think? What are those thoughts that come up? And this is when we're thinking about this reflection, sometimes I think we can do reflections and have it come totally different depending on what mood we're in. So I really encourage people to do them in more of a neutral mood. If you can't, then just note what kind of mood you're in. If you're doing this, like if you're documenting it in some way, video or audio or written, just don't, like, make a little mood thing of like, hey, I'm really pissed off at myself for doing this, and I'm going to do this activity, because that may impact what your answers to these questions are, right? Especially when we're talking about mindset. And so we would want to take that into consideration as well, because if you redo these reflection questions later on and you're in a great mood, you may get different answers. And that's just information, right? That helps you figure out, okay, how are these emotions playing into the mindset piece? So reflection here, when I think about food, what do I think? What are the thoughts that come up? Second question, when I think about food, how do I feel? And that's different than how do I think? It's how do I feel? And how is the way that I think about food right now helpful? And how is it unhelpful? Because there's, in every behavior, there's always helpful and unhelpful pieces of that, right? Or we wouldn't probably be doing those activities. So even something that like we think of as, oh, maybe I don't want to stay up late anymore, but how is that helpful? Oh, because I get more things done, or like I got to stay up and watch the end of the movie, or I got to spend time with my friend. And so we have these benefits, even if we're like the next morning, like, I am never doing that again, right? But that's not the point, right? The point is, in that moment, there is a helpful and an unhelpful scenario going on in your head. And if we can bring that to light a little bit, that can help us in our decision making, and not just say, I'm a terrible person for doing this. I'm like, I need to buckle down and do this better next time, or anything like that. It's just like saying in a gentle way, let's assess, let's see what happened, right? Let's observe. And then afterwards, we're going to see what is that observation. Then we assign the meaning. Later on, we can interpret, but separating that interpretation from the observation so that we can just gather information in a neutral way. How is that way that I eat right now helpful? And how is it unhelpful? Again, that the duality, right? Because things can be both and not just one. The next set is, how would I describe my relationship with my food? And if you want to, you can expand this and ask the same question about your health, about your body. How would I describe my relationship with my food, my health, my body? Am I satisfied in this relationship that I have with my food and my health and my body, if you want to expand? And if I had total satisfaction in my food, health, or body, I felt great in my body, what would I be able to do in my business? This really gets at that impact, right, on the rest of your business and the rest of your life. So if you had total satisfaction in your food, felt great in your body, what would you be able to do in your business? Okay. So that's the first section. The second activity is going to be a check-in. And we often say that mindful eating is talked about as no distractions, fully present meals, that idea of like you're sitting down and everything is wonderful and you have no distractions, and you never would eat while you do mindful eating. You'd never eat like while you work and do mindful eating, like you would just be eating and sometimes not even talking to anybody because you have to pay attention to your food. And okay, that's fine if you have that, if you would like to create that experience for yourself, right? I find that for a lot of my clients, for myself in general, that it's much more practical to do mindful eating as a mindful moment. It's much more realistic. It's much more practical. So what we're doing is we're aiming for a fully present bite. So whether this is at the beginning of your meal, at the middle of your meal, at the end of your meal, or near the end of your meal, or all three, or just once, or whatever you want to do, make some effort to be fully present at some point to the bite that you're having, right? Or the sip that you're having if you're just doing it with a drink. So be fully present to the taste, the texture, the sound, the smell, the experience, the appearance, the temperature, right? Figure out what that feels like. Can you, really describe it to yourself in that moment? Can you enjoy it? Can you be present in that moment with that food, right? Would this be satisfying? What parts are satisfying? What parts are not satisfying? Again, that duality, right? And there's maybe not even just the black and white of yes and no, it's satisfying or it's not satisfying, but maybe there's a mix, or maybe I'm unsure if I like this piece. Maybe I'm not sure if this is really doing it for me right now. Do I want to take another bite? Right? Because there's always that option. Do I want to take another bite? If you get this information, you're not obligated to do anything with it, right? You could keep going. You could say, no, I don't want to take another bite. This is not satisfying at all. I am so full. I'm going to finish the rest. Okay. It might not be the most satisfying thing you've done that day, but that's fine, right? And I think if we are trying to see this as a neutral event, that will help us so much more than saying you're not allowed to eat anymore if you blah, 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 or you're not allowed to eat a certain food if you blah, blah, blah. No, let's just take that away, because we're thinking about let's being fully present, right? And the more restrictions we have, the less present we are, because we're thinking about all these rules and restrictions. So that's the next activity to try, is that mindful bite. And then the third thing I have for you is that check-in, right? I had mentioned that if you're interested in checking in with yourself and how do your foods impact how you feel in your body, this would be a good thing for you to try. So again, this is not a judgment thing. This is not something to punish yourself about or to drastically change what you eat because of this. This is to bring more information. And I would recommend that if you're going to make drastic changes, if you do talk to somebody in your healthcare team, or you get somebody else to add to your healthcare team or your wellness team. But if you are interested in learning more about this, feel free to reach out. And like I said, I will share more information about how to go deeper in this, including a complementary option. So this is a good thing to do after you eat. I recommend doing this, either immediately after or a few hours after. The longer you go past like a few hours after, it's not as useful, because it requires that you remember what you're feeling after you eat something. So if you do it a few hours after, you can still think about like, how do you feel right now? But if you do it like 2 days later about that food that you ate the other day, sometimes that's a little bit harder, right? If you do it like say you ate something and it gave you a lot of gas, you could figure out that gave you a lot of gas fairly soon, probably. And you may even be able to think about this in, present to the situation, even the next day. Like sometimes people feel like, oh, I got so gassy and I was so bloated. Even the next day I could tell. So there's definitely exceptions to this. Like, yes, you could probably tell her maybe I ate something and it made me feel like I had a bunch of energy, but then the next day I had a really big headache, and it's not necessarily related, but it's a good thing to note, right? So of course, there's longer periods of time that could be useful to look at. But for this activity, if you're just starting with it, I recommend taking like anywhere from 15 minutes after a meal to maybe 3 hours after a meal, and doing these check-in questions. So the check-in questions are similar to some of these other questions where we're reflecting on what was that experience, right? How was what I ate and how I ate helpful, and how was it unhelpful? Because this is not just about the what we ate, the actual food or the drink, but also how we ate it. If we swallowed a hamburger in like 3 bites and barely chewed it at all, we're going to have a different experience than if we chewed it really slowly and ate the same amount of hamburger, right? It's a very different experience in the how, but not the same. I mean, it's the same experience in the what, but it's not the same experience in the how, right? So how was what and how I ate helpful and unhelpful? What is my body telling me about this food and or how it's feeling right now? And again, this is about the food, about how I ate, or about how it's feeling right now in my body. Do I like how I feel after I eat this food? Um, the next set of questions are there different times or different amounts or different ways of eating this food that might be more or less helpful? Are there different times, amounts, or ways of eating this food that might be more or less helpful? Because sometimes we can, just like I said about the hamburger example, if we are eating a hamburger and we ate 2 or 3 hamburgers, that could be a very different experience than just one hamburger, right? That's the amounts. If I eat a hamburger right after Thanksgiving dinner, that's going to be a very different experience than if I ate it right after I hadn't eaten in a long time, right? Or if I eat a hamburger, with a bunch of French fries versus with a salad, that could feel a different experience, right? Or if I eat the hamburger again without chewing or with chewing, right? That's going to be a different experience. So there's lots of different ways that we can think about this, not just about the what we eat, but the how we eat, what that experience, what else went into that experience, right? If you eat a hamburger and you're fighting with somebody at the same time you eat that hamburger, you may feel that different experience. It's that same idea as digging in a little bit more, checking in with yourself about what else was going on and what else could be helpful or unhelpful, right? And then, do I feel satisfied after I eat this food? And then, are there different times, amounts, ways of eating this food that might be more or less satisfying, right? So maybe I ate it, but it was okay. It was kind of bland. So the next time I do it, I might decide to put more flavors, more toppings in that hamburger. Or maybe I ate it and it had onions and I really dislike onions. And so I might take those out the next time, right? Or, I realized that I ate it right after I had a big snack or something. And so it wasn't as satisfying because I was more full than I would like to be if I didn't eat that much before. Those kinds of things. So you can go through these questions and you can check in and you can start to figure out, how does what I eat and how I eat impact how I feel, right? Because what we want to do is go for what is satisfying. And how do we know what is satisfying if we're never checking in? Okay, so then the fourth thing that I have for you is that one master question. And as I mentioned, it's a reference to Lord of the Rings. If you've ever seen or read Lord of the Rings, you will understand the reference to the one question to rule them all. This question is, what is the most nourishing thing I can do for me right now? What is the most nourishing thing I can do for me right now? And this doesn't obligate you to do that choice, right? The information that you gather is just information. It helps you make an informed decision. And that's really what my goal is to do for my clients, is really to help people make informed decisions. And part of the information that we're gathering is from yourself, right? So what is the most nourishing thing I can do for me right now? Make that informed, intentional decision, even if it's not whatever answer you get from this. And I mentioned several kinds of examples throughout this presentation already, and the different things, like with the hamburger examples. If you know that you're really full, maybe you only want a bite of that hamburger and you want to save the rest for later because you're going to be busy for lunch the next day. So you could save the hamburger, you would have a fast lunch the next day, and you would feel satisfied and nourished, right now and the next day. Maybe it's actually, no, I'm going to eat this hamburger right now because I'm really hungry, or I'm going to eat half of it because I'm not as hungry, but I know I should eat something because I am starting to get a headache and I have these other signals that I need to eat, even though I'm not necessarily feeling hungry right now. And there's all these different things that you can go into, or maybe you say, you know what, I really want that hamburger, and the most nourishing thing I could do is go take a break. Okay, maybe I'll take a break. Or, like I said, it doesn't obligate you to do the same thing. Maybe you're going to eat the hamburger anyway, and you're going to go, you know what, that wasn't the most satisfying thing or the most nourishing thing I could do right now. That's okay, right? I made a choice. I made an informed decision. It wasn't just a thing that happened to me, but that I had agency in my own life, that I actually made an intentional decision. And as people and as business owners, right, decision making is something that is learned. And so any decision that we make, an intentional decision, is helpful for us in the future because we're learning how to make decisions. We're learning to gather information to make a decision and then to see what the outcome was. So even if you decide to do something different, I encourage you just to be mindful and intentional about your decision making. So in general, what we learned to do was to check in, right? What is your, doing the general reflection, right? What is your relationship with food? To maybe have an activity to try that mindful bite and a fully present bite, to check in with yourself about how your food is impacting your body, not just your food, but how do you eat that food? And then to use that one master question, the one question to rule them all, give yourself a little bit more information, have a moment to gather that information to give yourself an opportunity to know what might be the most nourishing and satisfying thing for you in this moment. I mentioned that I had a gift for you. It's an opportunity to continue this work. And again, this is complimentary, right? I just want you to be able to have the opportunity to go a little deeper, to check in, to choose one of these activities, and then to be able to move forward with it. You could debrief, you could use this time to get more information on your specific situation, because I know that this is one-way video, right? So I don't know your specific situation. And if you'd like to get a tip on your specific situation as it relates to this, or something else that's going on, feel free to reach out. There's a link that I'll share. It's a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/nutrition mindset session. Let me share that on the screen as well. So it's bit.ly/nutrition mindset session. It's up to 60 minutes consult, complimentary. And if this will be helpful for you. If you'd like this content, you want to try one of them and you want to get a little bit deeper into it, or you want to reflect, or something came up for you as you try it, or something comes up for you, you realize that, yeah, this is something that I'd like to look into a little bit more, feel free to reach out. And you can reach out by email, you can leave me a comment. You can sign up directly for that nutrition mindset session. Whatever you feel like doing, go ahead and take the next step and learn more. It can also be helpful even if you think you can do this on your own, which you can, you are a capable person, you can do this on your own. I know that for me, at least, and for many of my clients, I have signed up for things, or I've watched videos, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can totally do this on my own. And maybe even I do, but I do it so late that I lose some of that momentum, right? And this, again, it's not just about what you're eating, the physical aspect, right? But this can impact the rest of your business, and this can impact the rest of your living. So I really encourage you to take action. If this is something that speaks to you right now, then take action on it. If it's not something that speaks to you right now, that's fine, right? That's also an informed decision, intentional decision making. So congratulations on making that decision. But if it is something that you are like, yes, I want to do this, then having something on the calendar can be really helpful, because you'll know that we're going to be checking in on this. So, pick one of these 4, try it out, and then see, what can I do? What was that experience like? And then you can go forward from there, and we can dig deeper than you might be able to do on your own. So yeah, let me know. You can email me, Shelly at confidentnutritionnow.com. That's Shelly, SHELLY at confidentnutritionnow.com, or visit that link for the Nutrition Mindset Consult. And, it's a gift. Just let me know that you're from the SENC, and you'll get free 60-minute Nutrition Mindset Consult. I really appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video, to get involved in the SENC in general. It's been really fun getting to know you, and I look forward to getting to know you more. Thanks again, and I will see you around. Have a great day.